What love means, what forgiveness means. Wake up, take a shower, eat breakfast, take the underground to the office, work, have lunch alone, work some more, and this is where the decision tree begins. I'm a programmer, a decent one. I'd be a senior developer by now if I cared about that. But I'm good enough not to get fired, which matters now. In short, a programmer. That's where the decision tree comes from. If it's a working day, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's underground, home. Except life is never that simple. It's never that simple. The decision tree starts early, branching out in the morning, because if it were Saturday or Sunday, I'd sleep in as late as my body would allow, then sit around playing video games all day. And on top of that, a special approach for special days, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, Valentine's Day. 2 years ago, it was different. All my decision branches were different. Everything changed a year ago. I would give anything to go back and make different decisions, to change something in my life and set it on a different path. I would ask for forgiveness for what I've done, but regrets are for those who can hope to be forgiven. The rest of us just go forward and deal with the consequences as best we can. My decision tree this Valentine's Day required a special approach. Usually on Tuesday, I go home and either drink, smoke, or play before bed. But tonight was my support group meeting, normally only held on Thursday. Valentine's Day was special. The people running it know that some of us will need extra support tonight. There aren't many people in the audience, just a handful of us sitting in folding chairs in a circle. I'm glad someone is absent. That's how Darius isn't here, and he hasn't been to any of the meetings in weeks. I smiled slightly. Hopefully he's broken out of the orbit of his pain, at least enough to start moving towards a new life. Margaret hasn't either, but I think she's just sick. When she spoke last week, her voice was terrible. I hope she gets better soon. She's very sweet. And of course, most of the other regular attendees didn't show up either. They used the group for its intended purpose, to get better. Our group isn't like AA. It's expected that at some point you will leave. If you didn't, either the group didn't work for you or you didn't work with the group. I was the latter. I never spoke once except to give my name in the 3 months I went. And the other 4? Well, 3 of them I think are old-timers. They each have their own reasons for being here, beyond the reasons that brought all of us to the group originally, other than losing our spouses at a young age. In theory, we all came here to talk to others who can understand, who can empathize. I was suggested to come by my therapist, so I came. But I know I'm not working with the group the way I should if I was going to leave the group. I'm here to wallow in it. Mary is here for that too. But her reclusiveness hasn't been quiet. Instead, every few weeks she talks about what she's done. Her husband was clinically depressed, and she could no longer cope with it. He himself stopped coping. He had lost his therapist and didn't want to go to a new one. He didn't want to go to the one she had found for him. Depressed, he started to lose his temper. She couldn't reach him, couldn't get him to seek help, and eventually fell in love with a colleague she trusted. She left her husband, Sam, alone. Not intending to do that, she called his sister, but something happened, and the sister didn't arrive in the promised 10 minutes. She didn't come at all, and he threw himself off the balcony of their flat. I can't stand Mary, not for what she did, not specifically for that. It's what I did, because she reminds me too much of myself. There's a supernatural valley between us, and her grief and pain are similar to mine enough that I recognize them, and so different that I get angry looking at her. Ray has been here the longest. He's the oldest. He's technically past the age limit, but who's going to kick him out? He was getting depressed, too, but tried to think of it as leadership, as giving back to the group what he got from it. His wife died in an accident while drunk driving. She had just had a little too much to drink and left the party like that, taking her car keys with her. I'm sure the band became his life, even though it prevented him from making a new one. He looks like one of those guys who goes to every home game shirtless and painted in the team colors. Here are his only friends, and we are not his friends. Gina looks a lot like Darius, and they are very close. She clearly misses her mate. Their spouses both died of cancer. I think she's still here because, unlike Darius's wife, Gina's husband lasted a long time, 3 years. He had a remission, then a relapse, then a slow deterioration that chemotherapy and radiation couldn't stop. There is a special pain in losing a loved one quickly, but there is also a special pain in losing them slowly, especially when you think they have already overcome the danger. The fourth, Ed, is one of the newcomers. Actually new, he's only been here a couple of weeks. He was still at the beginning of the process, just trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on. His wife's death was the simplest, and for that reason the saddest for me. An aneurysm, a simple weakness of a blood vessel that cut short both life and love. That leaves me, Todd. My wife died too. How and why? Well, Todd, would you like to share with us tonight? Ray's sincere voice makes my teeth grind. It's the same voice the school counselor uses when he tells you that maybe if you just try to fit in, things will get better. I switched off at Mary's story. I remember her saying she had met someone new. Even in my disdain, I could find some happiness for her. Hopefully she wouldn't mess it up. But then it turned into another story about her husband's death and her role in it. Only this time it was about how and when to talk about it with the new guy. It's like the blind leading the blind, and I didn't want to listen to a bunch of birds with broken wings giving advice on how to fly. I shook my head, and Ray, with his usual thin smile when I did that, started to turn to the next possible participant. But then, surprising myself, I said, Yes, I want to share. The old-timers glanced among themselves. These meetings go in a kind of flow, and that flow did not include me speaking. Even Ed seemed to catch on that something strange was going on. But it's been a year, exactly a year since Sandra's death, and for 3 months I've been coming here. There are only 4 people in the room, and if I'm not going to make it this night of all nights, with this many people judging me, when am I going to make it? I'm Todd. You know me. It's been a year since Sandra died. Exactly a year since I've been staring at the floor trying to avoid my eyes, since I killed her. There was a sigh. Gina, I thought. There was a rustle of fabric, and people stirred awkwardly in their chairs. Ray spoke up. Todd, perhaps. Ignoring him, I continued. I was betrayed by a betrayer. I've always been betrayed when it comes to Sandy. We got married too soon. I loved her and she loved me, starting in my 2nd year of high school. We weren't like many high school couples, the ones who break up and get back together again and again and again. It was us, just us, all through high school. We got engaged the week we graduated high school and married the week we graduated college. My folks, her folks, our friends all tried to tell us we were getting married too soon. But well, you know how kids are. People telling them they're making a mistake only convinces them that they're Romeo and Juliet who want to be separated. Or something. The floor here is that ugly stained linoleum, mostly green in color, that only happens in old classrooms. It's designed to hide vomit or blood or urine until some guy with a mop and bucket gets here. But we loved each other. We really did. It wasn't just youthful arrogance or lust. I would spend the rest of my life being happy with her. That's how we lived for 5 years, just happy beyond belief. Or at least I was happy. I thought she was too. We started talking about kids. Actually talked about it. She hesitated. We were so young, me 26, her 25. I pushed her a little, but she stubbornly resisted, so I left it at that. She's right. We are young. This could all wait a few more years, and I wanted her to be happy. Sitting back in the chair, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a packet of cigarettes and a lighter. Sticking one cigarette in my mouth, I held the lighter up. When Ray, raising his voice slightly in indignation, said, You can't smoke in... Mary shushed him. I looked around and realized I was being an arsehole, but then Gina, whose husband had died of lung cancer, nodded at me, and I decided that the majority had voted for me. I took a puff and blew the smoke away from the group, Ray in particular. He, however, coughed meaningfully. After that, things changed. Slowly at first. There was still love there, lots of love, but she decided to focus on her career. So we could prepare for having children, she said. Longer hours, occasional weekends, trips. I was young and stupid and in love. I thought nothing of it, because being at home, she was still just as affectionate, even more so. A ring of smoke drifted towards the ceiling, breaking apart, trying to fly too high. I had a doctor's appointment one morning, and I decided to stop by her work to surprise her. Invite her to lunch. Even if she couldn't go, she'd be happy to see me, right? Especially if I had flowers. Mary shifted in her chair. She knew from experience where this was leading. I got there just before lunch, but she was on her way out the door with another guy I didn't recognize. Our age, maybe a little older. When I pulled up, they were getting into his car. He was helping her get in, and his hands weren't where they should be. I probably would have gotten out and gotten into an argument with them, but then I would have just chased the car on foot and yelled at it like a crazy person. So instead, I followed them in my car. They pulled into an hourly motel. I took a picture of them going inside, and the position of his hands didn't get any better. I took a picture of them coming out. Her hair was slightly mussed, but her makeup was perfect. That's when Ed started to speak, with a sympathetic look I'd seen hundreds of times on dozens of faces in this room, but I waved him off. I doubted he'd be so sympathetic when I was done. I sat the rest of the day, calling in sick to work and being told I was sick. I felt like I was dead. I even wanted to kill her. This is where the crowd felt uncomfortable. Tell a group of grieving spouses that you would like to kill your spouse and see what happens. I was trying to decide if I could somehow forgive her. For example, if I came face to face with her and she threw herself at my feet and begged, would I be able to forgive? No, I couldn't. I was absolutely sure of it. I grinned unhappily, shaking my head. Very sure. The room was tense and quiet. No one wanted to move or speak, not even me, but I was sure. Fury boiled up inside me that day. In a couple of hours, I'd gone through all the stages of grief and come out the other side ready to hurt her as much as I could. I saw their faces, thought about how they were comparing what I'd just said to what I'd said about the murder. My hand went palm up, the ash from my cigarette falling to the floor. No, they don't. I wanted to. She ruined our marriage. I was going to do it to her in full. They looked like a tribunal. Ray annoyed, Gina saddened, Mary understanding, Ed horrified. Their judgment didn't matter. I knew I was guilty anyway. Valentine's Day was approaching, Sandy's favorite holiday. I know it's an advert, but I love it anyway. It's about love, and that's something I'll always have with you. I wasn't trying to mock her, but it came out that way. I decided to hold off on the confrontation for a while. She had ruined something I loved, and I was going to destroy our marriage and her favorite holiday in one fell swoop. If even that sounds cruel. I shrugged. It is. Intentional. And the cigarette was almost finished, so I took one last puff, put it out on my heel, and put the butt in my pocket. There was already ash on the floor, and I wanted Ray to grumble that I'd littered even more, but I lit another one anyway. To hell with his sanctimonious arse. When she came home, I pretended to be sick. I'm not a good enough actor to just pretend I'm fine, but made sure she saw the roses I gave her, put them in a big vase so when she came in, she would see them. Told her I'd try to surprise her at lunch, but I must have just missed it. Sandy turned pale, but, to her credit, came round quickly. I spent the next week and a half preparing. I booked a table, left her little love notes to heighten the surprise, little gifts meant to hint at something more. She was so happy. I always tried to make Valentine's Day special for her, but this time I went much further. I grinned. Yes, much further. A lot further than I should have gone. Ray cut in. Todd, that sounds like something you should discuss with your therapist. I laughed. Why do you think I'm here, Ray? I had to share all this with my peers. I swept my hand in a circle, encompassing them. To see that I wasn't alone in my pain, that no matter what I did, I shook my head. Bollocks, never mind, and growled. Don't interrupt again. He sat back in his chair with his arms crossed, pouting at the loss of his imaginary power. The night before, I told her to put on her best, her favorite dress, jewelry, had her hair done, manicure, everything. Told her we were going all out for the weekend, with a big surprise to show her how much she meant to me. She was over the moon. And that night, when we were ready to go on our date, she looked beautiful. How... I laughed melancholically. Not like an angel, not in those clothes, but like the woman of my dreams, a fantasy in the flesh. Some part of me wanted to forget everything, to give her what I'd promised, but then I remembered the way she'd come out of the hotel room, how comfortable she was with his attention. So I smiled a devilish smile and we hit the road. I haggled a bit and booked a table at a new exclusive restaurant, a table by the window, ostensibly because she likes to people watch. Actually, because I wanted people watching her. She is beautiful, young and sexy, and more than one of the male patrons got looks from their female companions as we made our way to our table and sat down. We ordered our drinks and held hands. Sandy was glowing. She was so full of joy. I stopped and took another puff, wishing I had a drink instead. I took the bag with me, told her it was part of her surprise. She was almost vibrating with anticipation when I reached inside and pulled out a manila envelope. On any other night, any other time, she would have realized immediately what it was. I heard a sigh to my left as someone else did. While she frantically opened the gift, I pulled out my phone and queued up a picture of her coming out of the motel. The look on her face, it should have crushed me, should have told me I should stop, that this was too much. But the pain, the confusion, that's what I was there for. My revenge. And then when I said, I know everything, and showed her the photograph, I savored the pain, the way her flawless makeup was ruined by tears, the way she covered her mouth with her hand. I savored every detail, wanting to remember it forever. She could see it on my face, anger and joy at her pain. Another puff of the shivering cigarette. Stupid. So stupid. Mary held her breath. Gina grabbed her hand and squeezed it. Ed sat on the edge of his chair and Ray feigned disinterest, though I could see his breathing was shallow with fear. She panicked. I hadn't expected it, but welcomed it when it happened. Sandy jumped to her feet, ran. Ran in blind panic. I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it. She rushed away from the table and I laughed, laughing at the pain of this woman I was supposed to cherish. My head hung low, weighed down by guilt and their horrified, expectant expressions. I couldn't look at them. Didn't want to see them looking at me. She squeezed through the crowd in the waiting area, popped out the door, and ran. Ran, my voice cracked. Ran out into the street. It was. Tears came out. He couldn't stop. The car couldn't stop. I was on my feet, screaming when it happened. All thoughts of revenge and anger faded away. She fell. The impact was so small, not like in the films. The bumper hit her and she fell. She fell and her head. It bounced off the pavement, and she didn't move. I lost control of my voice, of its volume and timbre. It was filled with pain and longing for something I could never get back. I ran out screaming and crying, panicked like her but still able to see. I saw what I had done and ran to her, through the crowd of onlookers. Fell to my knees beside her. She was gone. A blank stare, some blood on the pavement, and that was it. The love of my life was gone, never to return to me. Jesus! Jesus Christ! Ed's voice, somehow terrifying and even at the same time. Beneath it, I could hear quiet sobs, a woman's cry, an accident. That's how it was framed. That's how the cops recorded it, and no one even looked at it closely. No one could have known she'd do it. But I knew, and my friends knew, and her family knew. I killed their daughter. I never told them why. I couldn't do that to her. I killed her once, and I couldn't do it a second time. Ray, finally speaking in a voice that didn't make my teeth chatter, said, Did you ever find out? A question without a question. Shy, as always. I leaned back in my chair, laughing. Mary. It was Mary who was crying. Gina was hugging her, trying to hold her. Is that your question, Ray? Not how are you feeling now? Thanks for sharing this with the group. You forgot. I shook my head. Never mind, I'd be curious too. Yes, that bastard did show up at the funeral. One of her co-workers. He didn't know I knew. I cornered him and... I swallowed. It was my fault too. The reason she cheated, I mean. Sort of. Not really, but... I shook my head again. She was scared when I pushed her to have kids. She saw her life going on without her, that she would never beat herself. Just my girlfriend, then wife, then mother. That's why she went head over heels into work, to carve out a little niche for herself. And then he seduced her. He was single and handsome, and she was in a bad position. They worked long hours together. Simple as that. They made love several times. The one time I caught them was supposed to be, according to him, the last. He might have lied to spare my feelings, but I think he knew that if he wanted to spare my feelings, he would have portrayed her as unrepentant instead. He didn't know if she was going to confess or not. He didn't think she knew either. He was the only one who had ever heard the whole truth about why she died, about why I was divorcing her. Ed asked, Did you do anything to him? No, Originally I was going to do something to him. I haven't decided what, but I'm the one who ruined my life and ended hers. Ruined her family, ruined all my friendships. I thought that was enough pointless destruction, wasn't it? He averted his eyes. Mary grimaced. It's not your fault. You didn't know. I snorted. No, it was my fault, Mary, just like it was your fault when Sam killed himself. As soon as I said that, I immediately regretted it. The body count from my grief only increased, killing more and more people. She growled, You're an arsehole. You're a fucking arsehole. I know it. She jumped to her feet and screamed in my face, even as Gina tried to pull her away. Sam had a mental illness. He was clinically depressed. I killed my husband because... She swallowed, regaining a tiny bit of control over herself. Because I couldn't handle it anymore. I thought I could fix him, that he'd become another one of my projects, as he used to say. I didn't realize it. I thought he was just sad. I thought that's all depression was. But it wasn't. It isn't. Her demeanor became agitated and erratic, tears streaming down her face. This wasn't her usual self-injury, meant to reassure newcomers that things could have been worse, while giving her a chance to publicly agonize over her sins. This was different. This was a breakdown. Or maybe a breakthrough. I guess we'll see which. I don't get it. I'm sorry, Sam. I didn't get it. I do now. I know. I know what it's like to take pills when they change who you are and how you think. How scared you get when you feel sad because they might have stopped working. How hard it is when you can't get to a therapist. When there's no one to talk to who understands you. She stood in a circle, inviting our judgment. Her face was covered by her hands, muffling her words. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I killed you. I'm sorry. I thought Anne would get here in time. Didn't. Her shoulders shook with bitter laughter and her eyes stared up at the ceiling. Forgot she was stupid herself. Forgetting to put snow chains on her car in the middle of fucking December. Forgot to charge her phone as usual. And then she had an accident. An accident. A fucking fender bender. Couldn't phone or text to let us know even. The stupid fool didn't even think to look for a payphone. She was so deep in her own learned fucking helplessness. 5 minutes away, 20 minutes walking, and she couldn't get there in an hour. Her voice dropped. I should have stayed. But I didn't. Shouldn't have cheated. I should have fought harder. And I almost whispered, I'm sorry, Sam. Then she came at me. But you fucking arsehole, you didn't kill your wife. You can't pretend to cause her death. You don't get it. You didn't know she'd react like that. Yes, you were a jerk, and you should be ashamed of that. But you... She spit under my feet. We're nothing alike. I actually killed my husband. And your wife was a stupid fool who left her marriage because she had a quarter-life crisis. Crisis or not, it was too much. No one should talk about my Sandy like that. I've never hit a woman in my life, but that has to change. I instantly jumped to my feet, clenched my fists, and prepared to punch. But then Ray and Ed grabbed me, and Gina grabbed Mary, and we were dragged back to our chairs. Ray's trembling voice said, Maybe we should break for the night. No. Gina's voice, clear and crisp. No, we shouldn't. Gina spoke infrequently, and from that her voice had much more impact than Mary's or Ray's. The tone was soft and kind. Everything about her said, carer. It's normal to feel conflicted about them. Because of our spouses. Todd, you're not a monster if you're mad at her, even if you hate her. Mary's right. You didn't kill her. It was a terrible, tragic accident, but you didn't kill her. She turned to Mary. And Mary, do you think Sam would have wanted you to do that? Become him? Did he love you? Mary nodded reluctantly. Do you think he would have wanted you to suffer what he suffered? Of course he wouldn't. She sighed. I know you feel a lot of guilt about what happened to him. Honestly, you'll feel it for the rest of your life. But I want to tell you, I'm so proud of you for putting yourself out there, trying to meet someone else. It's really great, and I think Sam would be proud of you too. Mary turned away. Shame reflected on her face. Gina turned to me again. Todd, if Sandra had died in an accident, if she had never found out that you had found out about her affair, what do you think she would have wanted? I sighed. It didn't matter. She didn't. Please. Her soft voice was softly pleading. Just if she did, what do you think she'd want? For you to live the rest of your life alone and miserable? No. She nodded. And if her colleague was right about her feeling guilty, even if what you did was cruel, do you think her answer would have changed? The cigarette was almost all ash by now, barely smoldering. I took a drag and put it out, putting the butt in my pocket next to the other one. I don't know. The way she spoke was magnetic, almost mesmerizing. I don't know if it was because she spoke so rarely that every word seemed more important, or just the quality of who she was and what she wanted to say. Let's go through a piece at a time, then. She smiled. Did she love you? I snapped back. She cheated on me. That's not what I asked. I asked if she loved you. Let's make it simple. If I had asked you that a year before she died, what would you have said? I would have said yes. Now her pleasant tone was slightly reproachful, like a teacher bringing a recalcitrant student to the obvious truth. And, if her colleague was right, which you seem to believe, she felt regret for what she had done. Perhaps enough to confess, perhaps not. But it indicates that she still loved you, or at least cared about you. And if that's the case, I killed her. You'd think that would change how she felt. I deserved that pain, and I wasn't going to let her spare me from it so easily. Gina smiled sadly. You didn't kill her, and Mary didn't kill Sam, no matter how much she wanted to insist that she did. She made the wrong choice that led to his death. It's not the same thing. Neither are you, but Sandy's death. She looked at Mary apologetically. Mary had made a bad choice that carried an element of risk that she should have understood. She did understand, and even tried to take it into account. But she sighed and turned back to me. What about yours? He was cruel, yes, but did she ever give you any reason to believe that she would behave like that? Any history of mental illness? Panic attacks? Emotional instability? Depression? I shook my head. Then it was what the police called it, Todd. A tragic accident. Her pious act was starting to piss me off. I didn't need a confessor to forgive my sins. That's not true! Yes, it is. You feel guilty for being cruel, for being angry with her and letting it become something monstrous, but she looked at her hands. That doesn't make you responsible for what happened. It wasn't your anger that killed her, and your guilt won't bring her back. It doesn't lead to anything good. It just makes you a victim of the past. Yeah, she continued, ignoring me. Everyone in this room? She smiled wickedly at Ed. Almost everyone. Stuck here because we can't get past what we've done. Or didn't. Or wanted to. My case is less dramatic than yours or Mary's, but... Gina chewed her lip, then spoke more confidently. Rick had been sick for a long time. I was a supportive wife at first. Did what I could for him. We had kids, little ones. I had to take care of them and him, work to keep our insurance, pay for the house, food, and... I watched her closely. Everyone was watching. She'd talked about Rick's death many times before, as a way to cope with grief, to help new people feel welcome. But that wasn't what it was about now. It wasn't about grief over his death. It was about something else. It's exhausting. Me too. The first time before he went into remission, I bore it as courageously as I could. He was in so much pain, emotionally and physically, and the kids. Thank goodness they were too young to understand. But they were also so young that I had to take care of a couple of babies by myself, while simultaneously caring for a husband who I thought was dying. A tear rolled down her cheek. I was God, I was so grateful to have him back. To, to know that he would live, that we had survived the worst time of our lives. And then we had almost 2 happy years together. We lived those 2 years fiercely, without fear. We knew that this was ours by right, that we deserved it, that we would have it forever. Gina's lips trembled. But then the cancer came back. And I'd never felt such pain in my heart before. The first time it was like being hit with a hammer. But the second, she wiped her eyes. I grew up poor. Real poverty. We got food stamps, but sometimes we didn't have enough. One time the power went out in our neighborhood and the food in the fridge went bad. It was summer, so there were no school meals. For half the week we ate whatever dry food we had. And then for the rest of the week we starved. All our neighbors were in the same position and the local food bank was empty and there just wasn't enough of everything. It was horrible, painful. Seeing the shame on my parents' faces was almost as painful as the gnawing hunger. But then payday came, and Dad was able to restock the fridge again to buy more dried food. Every time the power went out after that, I remembered that hunger. That terrible, terrible, unrelenting pain. It was much worse than the hunger because I had no choice but to endure. Fear, on the other hand, was something that was always on the edge of my perception, and when the power went out after that, I spent the whole time in fear of what might happen. Mary put a hand on Gina's shoulder and held it there. Gina cast her a brief, appreciative glance, then continued. Rick's relapse was the same. I knew what the diagnosis meant, what the future held for us, even if he went into remission again. The kids got older and I tried to explain to them, who barely had a clue about death, what could happen, and as Rick got sicker and sicker, what would happen. She shook her head. I resented him, hated him, knew it wasn't his fault, knew it was irrational, but I felt it anyway. I loved him so much, and he did this to me, to us. We won. Why couldn't he why couldn't it have been enough? Why did we have to fight again? Gina bowed her head. Why did we have to lose? Why did he make me? Why did he make me? I wanted him to die, waited for it at the end, to be free of this terrible pain. I also wanted him to be free, but mostly Ed exclaimed. For God's sake, did any of you love your spouses, just love? Gina lifted her head, pain frozen on her tear-drenched face, her mouth open but saying nothing. Mary turned to Ed, fury burning in her eyes. Fuck you, Ed. Ray spoke. The voice wasn't Ray's, not his slick counselor voice or his frustrated vice principal voice. It was sharp and cold as a knife. We all loved our spouses. Hell, we probably loved them more than... What was her name, Irene? I'm sorry, but after a while they all blend into one. I'm sure she was special to you, but she's just another dead wife on a long list. What the hell? He grinned. Damn, I'm so sick of these tourists. Ed opened his mouth. Shut up, it's my turn. It's my turn to tell you how... He looked round at all of us. God, you're weak. I listen to people like Ed, the ones who come and go quickly, and I'm glad to see it, glad to see they got what they needed. He looked at Ed. You'll never suffer the way these people suffered, and you should be grateful for that. Be glad that the only thing you ever felt for your wife was love, that you have nothing to be ashamed of. You're done. Congratulations, you've graduated. Get the hell out of here. He turned to face each of us in turn. You're all, so damn needy. So sure that what you did and how you feel is so unforgivable. He pointed at Mary. Sam was an arsehole, unwilling to keep doing what he needed to do to stay sane. You weren't ready to deal with it, but you can't accept that because you have this savior complex demanding that you fix everyone, so it just has to be your fault. Gina was next. You! God, Gina, I can't even be mad at you. It's like kicking a puppy. You're so good. He almost spat out the last word, as if saying it made him realize he couldn't compare to her. There was bitterness in his mouth as well as in himself. He looked at Mary with a chuckle. Hey, Mary. Here. This is what you have to do if you want holiness. Brutally finished with that, he shifted his gaze to Gina. Of all these people, you're the only one I feel sorry for. Truly sorry. Because you were so ready to end his pain, And then you did it, and it only made you more miserable. You just can't shake off your guilt for the hurt that literally anyone would feel. You're special, Gina, yes, but damn it, you're not that special. You keep telling everyone else that their husbands or wives wouldn't want them to suffer, would want them to get on with their lives. Well, doctor, heal yourself. Ray's face, as he fixed his gaze on me, became a monstrous mask of rage. Or maybe the mask he'd always worn had finally come off. And you've been sitting here all this time judging us with this superiority, as if your pain were so much worse. It just took a bomb to drop here. You had to be the center of attention. I killed my cheating wife. Wah, 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 wah. Grow up. People cheat every day. People are violent every day. People make mistakes every day. Congratulations. You've been lucky 3 times and she's dead and you... My rage at Mary's words didn't dissipate. It was just waiting for a new target, and it was Ray. I jumped up from my chair, knocked both him and myself to the floor, and just bloody slammed into him. His glasses came off, flying off into the darkness. His hands were up at first, deflecting the blows, but then he lowered them, a huge, insane grin on his face. I paused, and Ray shouted, "Do it! Do it! I deserve it, and you're so desperate to punch someone because you can't pull yourself together and throw yourself off a bridge." He smirked at Mary. "Oh, sorry." I jerked back and away, disgusted with myself and him. Pulled back to get away from the creature he'd turned into, terrified. He laughed. "Damn fool, not surprised." His nose was bloody and he licked the top of his lip, then grabbed a napkin and clamped his nostrils shut. All of you, you all have reasons to hate your spouses and you just feel guilty about it. I killed my wife and I did it accidentally, without hate. I called Ed a tourist, but you... God, you're like the ugly Americans in the band, so obnoxious and loud in your grief. Yeah." His eyes closed. "Screw it. This is my last session. I can't..." He swallowed. "You want to know why I killed my wife? Because I wasn't ready to leave the party. We both arrived after work, drove our cars. She'd been drinking, but I didn't realize how much. I had so much to drink that it wasn't noticeable. She wasn't feeling well, and I just brushed her off, telling her I'd meet her at home. And then, an hour later, I got a call on my phone from a state trooper. So, yeah, I killed my wife. Not because she cheated, not because she was crazy, not because of some horrible disease, just because I was lazy and having fun." He laughed bitterly. "Beat that, you arseholes." His eyes filled with tears while he rummaged through his pocket. "Ray," Gina started, and he stared at her before pulling out a pair of keys and tossing them to her. "Lock it up when you're done." And then the oldest of the old-timers left, slamming the door behind him. Ed was next, casting a look of utter horror at us. "Yeah, I hope that you can find the piece that you..." He shook his head and left. And then it was just the 3 of us ugly Americans left. Mary said quietly, "I'm sorry, Todd. I shouldn't have said that about Sandra. I was the one having a quarter-life crisis, not her, and I was mad at myself and just..." "No, Mary. She was angry, too. So it's just easier if I can blame when it's my fault. If she died because of me and only because of me, then I don't have to deal with..." I couldn't say it. Wasn't even sure exactly what I meant. Gina almost whispered, "Because then you wouldn't have to think about whether you could forgive her. You knew what you did was cruel, and you knew you'd be ashamed later because you still loved her." I nodded, a lump in my throat. "And now, if you could go back and do it again, you would. Because you know what it's like to lose her in a way that can't be undone." I hung my head. No, that's not it. Close, but I know I couldn't do it. The only way I could forgive her is... What happened? I was so sure that what she did was just something I can't get over. Something I can't get over. Knowing what I know now, I would forgive her in a heartbeat. But if she hadn't, I never would have been able to. I know now how much I love her and how much she means to me just because she died. I finally said it, the thing that had been eating away at me for a year. I only truly understood what love meant, what forgiveness meant, when it stopped mattering, when regret became just a word. And then Mary surprised me. She hugged me. I was about ready to hit her like Ray did, but she just held me and held me while I cried. I never realized how much I loved Sandy until she was gone. Mary never realized how much she loved Sam until he was gone. Knowing what we know now, we would bear any burden to get them back. But we only have that knowledge because we lost them. We would both give anything to get our loved ones back, but we never could. I hugged her tightly and we both sobbed. Gina let us stay like that for a while. Once finished, Mary and I looked at her. My heart went out to the quiet core of our group, the leader that Ray desperately wanted to be but never could. We wanted to help her out of her pain, but her form was so different from ours. We held out our hands to her, but she pulled back, smiling. "Thank you, but—" She swallowed. "I'm glad you're not coming back, are you? None of you are." That was reassuring and sweet. I looked at Mary, she at me, then both of them back at Gina. I shook my head slightly. "Now I know why I came here. Thank you, Gina, and you too, Mary, but it's time to move on. You're right, Gina. Even with what I've done, Sandy would want me to move on, just like Sam would want Mary to move on, but, Gina, Rick would want you to move on too." Gina laughed softly. "Yeah, maybe. But—" She shook her head. "But I don't. I don't want to yet. As soon as I do, as soon as I leave here and leave him behind, he'll be gone, really gone. Every day I would forget him more and more. I hated his illness and what we were going through. I hated him too for doing this to us, but I love him. If coming here and my grief, both over his death and how poorly I handled it, can help me keep that love alive, at least for a little while, I'll get over it." She smiled. "What if I can help people? Then it's like he's still here with me, sort of. Like we're no longer trying to deal with his illness, but trying to deal with other people's illness." She hugged us, but not to start the healing, but to say goodbye. We hardly said anything as we left, no platitudes about hoping to see each other again. We just went our separate ways. Gina will stay here for at least a little while longer, the last of the old-timers to help tourists who stopped briefly on their way to their new endeavors. Mary and I are off each to our new lives, to the new decisions and branches they will lead us on. We are all wiser than before, and I hope that means a better life for all of us. The end.